Eurydia Prime has arrived, and that's excuse enough to update the builds one can bring to bear with her. I've covered her abilities and functionality in the past with the short word guide to the girl who skates. Let's focus on the full power attainable with her in the modern modding meta. I'm Nick Engineer, let's solve a practical problem. Quick fun fact, Ballas intended to body snatch the girl that became Eurydia, but turned her into a Warframe instead because he didn't like her attitude. If you'd like to get your hands on everything Ballas despised all for free, make sure to watch to the end of the video. Eurydia is primarily a weapons platform and control Warframe. She has a damage enhancing and control ability, a movement and tanking ability with options for weapon buffing or further control and damage buffing. She has a larger control ultimate, and then Aquablades exists. Not to completely overlook it, Aquablades does have an augment we'll get into, but the ability outside of that augment, and even kinda within it, mostly just doesn't do much to help Eurydia. In terms of a weapon platform then, she's got two core options that dictate the rest of the setup. Do you want to be on Muradina or not? Going on Muradina, you will certainly want to pick up the Muradina Guardian augment. This augment, requiring you keep her Sea Snares ability as well, allows you to heal Muradina while active. Doing so grants you a staggeringly high fire rate and reload speed buff for secondary weapons. The augment buffs are not affected by strength, only duration. However, Eurydia still benefits from strength and range to make better use of her control options and damage enhancement. The extra strength is also useful for giving Muradina higher base health and augmented healing. Plus, it boosts whatever ability you slot over the unimportant Aquablades. For these reasons, I recommend a decent duration, keeping range neutral or higher, and otherwise investing into strength, where you can afford to do so for the extra damage and longer living Muradina. If you do hit point tank, I strongly recommend using fast deflection and vigilante vigor to allow your shields to rapidly recover, especially if fully broken. With these combined, Eurydia only needs 1 second of avoiding all damage to begin to regenerate, something very achievable given her ability to crowd control enemies. However, I'll be the first to admit that this takes a bunch of mods away from her offensive capabilities. If you instead value mods more than arcanes, you can apply Arcane Aegis. This poorly worded arcane suggests a very low chance to improve her shield recharge by 30% for 12 seconds. What it actually does is, for the duration, it turns on her shield recharge even if she's recently taken damage, and it increases the recharge to restore a further 30% of her max shields every second, on top of normal regeneration rate. This not only provides an incredible amount of restoration, but also full immortality under any amount of non-toxin damage while active. Even unranked, Arcane Aegis only loses out on hit point restore rate. It still provides the same activation chance and same duration. When this arcane is equipped, alongside at least one Augur mod or brief respite, Eurydia is able to survive to an altogether ludicrous level that almost entirely removes the need for other defenses. I say almost, but it's still a 3% chance of activation. If it fails to activate and you run out of both shields and the ability to cast, then you're in trouble. Try to avoid letting that happen, or otherwise control the area to get some breathing room. I find it most comfortable to strike a middle ground. Primed redirection for massively higher shields, both for buffer hit points and for increased regen speed. Adaptation for even higher resilience to rapid attacks from enemies that can't be crowd controlled. Then Arcane Aegis for the nigh immortality while active. This still removes the 2 shield regen mods, opening up room for additional strength, range or duration to suit your desired build. Those slots can also be used for counters to EDA or ETA penalties, such as Prime Flow to deal with max energy reduction, or Energy Nexus and Equilibrium to deal with increased energy drains. Looking at Archon shards, she benefits from starting energy to safely get her kit started, and casting speed to reduce the time taken to apply her effects as needed. But lower investment approaches focus tank first by ensuring you can cast Muradina as needed, and either stack in the shield regeneration mods or at least an unranked Arcane Aegis. After that, put a boost into duration for longer uptime on Muradina Guardian buffs, and then you're free to start investing into higher strength and range for the more optional parts of her kit. This build approach, with variation to meet your needs, is ideal for surfing among enemies with your secondary weapon tearing through them. Soften stronger targets with Choice Caster Sea Snares, and incapacitate clusters of enemies with Riptide. Secondaries that can benefit from the higher fire rate or reload speed, especially Incarnans with their transformation speed, love this. It's not good if you don't have access to a good secondary weapon, or if Merlina's mobility options are terrible for you and the map that you're on. That's where we can switch our focus to Merlina's other augment, Loyal Merlina. This provides you the normal benefits to her tank without riding Merlina at all. Instead, Merlina follows you around and casts its own copy of Sea Snares at nearby enemies. In that one augment, mutually exclusive with Merlina Guardian, you remove the unusual mobility of K-Drives, reacquire access to primary and melee weapons, and have passive casting of Sea Snares for control and damage vulnerability. Curiously enough, those Sea Snares are independent of your own, allowing you to cast Sea Snares on the same enemy as Merlina for a stacking multiplicative effect on damage. If Sea Snares is a 300% damage vulnerability, effectively a 3 times damage multiplier, then the stacking will make that 9 times. With higher strength values, the effect continues to scale quadratically. Do be aware that damage attenuated enemies will resist this effect almost fully. While this does lose out on fire rate and reload speed buffs, having full access to one's arsenal without having to lose the defensive buffs is going to be a win for a lot of missions and playstyles, especially in EDA and ETA, where you may only get one weapon you're comfortable with out of all 9 options. This can be the only way to use that weapon with Euryale 2/3 of the time. As for how the augment dictates the build, I'd recommend going into very high efficiency. Merlina casts only 1 Sea Snare rather than 5 like Euryale does, and does so at a rate based on efficiency. At base, it's 2 seconds between casts. With maximum efficiency, Euryale brings this down to 0.5 seconds. With such efficiency, and keeping duration close to or above neutral to benefit from it, enemies will be frequently controlled and made vulnerable. At 0.5 seconds per cast, Merlina will be casting up to 120 times per minute. For a semi-passive ability, that's a very good application rate. Outside of efficiency, I then recommend strength to get the value out of the squared damage scaling, keeping duration and range neutral where possible. The high efficiency also means the Riptide is a very cheap 25 energy to cast for controlling a full group of enemies. Tank-wise, all the same rules apply as before. For a hit point tank, use Fast Deflection and Vigilante Vigor. Optionally, also Adaptation and Prime Redirection for even higher levels. Alternatively, slot in Arcane Aegis, and again optionally Adaptation and Prime Redirection for recurring moments of level-agnostic immortality. If you are running more defensive mods, dropping down to just 160% efficiency can save a crucial mod slot without losing too much from Loyal Merlina's casting. It goes from 120 snares per minute to 75, which is still a very usable bonus. For lower investment, focus first on the efficiency, and having at least one of Brief Respite or an Augur mod included. Then, shore up other stats as you can afford to do so. Again, an unranked Arcane Aegis is almost just as good as a fully ranked one. For both of these setups, there's a powerful arcane to consider that works excellently alongside Euryale's various bonuses to secondary weapons. Arcane Pistolier. This will grant complete ammo efficiency for the relatively low cost of getting pistol headshot kills. It doesn't work with Incarnate modes, untargeted AoEs, or missions where headshot kills are rare, so it is a situational buff. When a situation calls for it, infinite ammo will make that 200% fire rate bonus and 200% crit chance bonus absolutely sing. Outside of these two main builds, there are a couple super specialized approaches we can take. The Surging Blades augment is pretty mediocre. It can scale up when used appropriately, but it needs support to get work done on most targets. By far, the biggest thing holding it back is that its damage scaling gets entirely reset when the ability expires. To make a build on this then, both strength and duration are required. Without strength, you have no damage to scale from. Without duration, your scaling will run out. Thankfully, both range and efficiency are irrelevant, as Surging Blades is free to cast on Merlina, while range only affects how far Sea Snares and Riptide's effects reach. For this, we're definitely subsuming out Riptide, as there's no synergy to it. I recommend Raw for the indisputable benefits to both ability damage and slash procs which Aquablades is relying on. Beyond base stats, casting speed means more Surging Blades, which means more damage output, and then, once again, the basic demands of tanking through hit points or Aegis to match your preference. Surging Blades works best with lots of basic enemies to allow for plentiful hits to scale your damage up on. It is, however, considerably less effective against status-resistant enemies. Despite the slash cap on Acolytes though, they usually take decent damage from this ability when scaled up. Outside of Euryale herself, buff the Surging Blades further by using a status primer on enemies for magnetic or viral procs. If you could spare the modding and companion, you could also incorporate the mecha set to send the slash procs room-wide too. While this works on Steel Path, it's nothing amazing and rapidly runs out of room for scaling, not to mention its repeat spam of an ability that gives up even animating properly. I personally don't enjoy it, but this is how I go about getting the most out of the augment if you do enjoy that playstyle. Which brings us to the final build that you really never needed, but I'm doing it anyway. A crate busting setup. We already have Limbo and Zaku for this job, but why not give Uradi the option too? It turns out that Riptide can break containers on expiring without needing line of sight, and comes with a sizable explosion radius. By dropping the duration down to minimum, the ability ends rapidly on its own, so we don't spend time and an animation deactivating the Riptide. Crucially, you should use maximum range and efficiency. Otherwise, it's a loyal Marlena to have efficient tank with normal mobility and casting conditions, plus Arcane Consequence for maximum parkour mobility. With this, we have a setup dedicated to just slamming through a low tier mission and exploding everything until we found our Argon Crystals or rare loot. This setup can be utilised in the Golden Instinct farming method I outlined in a previous video, if you're dead set on both that particular gameplay loop and using specifically Uradi for the job. At all times, Uradi benefits from at least one casting speed Archon Shard and a single starting energy Archon Shard. The other slots could be used as you desire, for example with Violet Shards for the equilibrium effect, improving energy economy to avoid needing an arcane or focus school instead. As ever, this is a choice that comes down to your preference, playstyle, and available choices. Due to the limited nature of Archon Shards, I've tried to minimise their importance in these builds where possible. With that, you've got main builds for skating and non-skating purposes, Surging Blades, and a Crate Buster. However you want to use the magical Axolotl Skater Girl, this should have you covered. If you made it to the end of the video with me, you now have a chance to win a Uradi Prime Access Pack. This includes Uradi Prime, Compressor Prime, Daikyu Prime, her accessories, the glyphs, the platinum, all the contents of the top end pack in one giveaway, provided by Digital Extremes. To enter, follow the link in the video description, cunningly disguised as just the link, and enter your details there. You'll also need to include the answer to which primary incarnate weapon is used in this video. It's the Fenmore, by the way. The question is just a bot filter. The giveaway is free to enter, open until June 10th, with one entry per person only. The winner will be announced on YouTube, Discord, and the kentonir.com website. For those of you watching after the 10th, you can still join more giveaways primarily by watching my live streams over on Twitch. That's all from me for now, so as always, cast snares, find rares, and fight well, Tenno.